Hare Krishna. The spring beauty surrounding Lake Pampa awoke within Rama memories of his loving pastimes with Sita, thus intensifying his transcendental grief. Rama constantly thought of Sita and wondered if she was able to live without him. Rama bitterly lamented, "O Lakshmana, it is now the month of Chaitra, and this lake is so lovely with its deep blue waters. This is the season of love, when all the trees become resplendent with blossoms, their petals raining down to decorate the beautiful green forest carpet. Without Sita, however, life seems meaningless. That which pleased me when she was present now pains me. When I hear the cuckoo's call, I think of Sita's sweet voice. When I see the pink lotus flowers swaying on the crests of the waves, I think of Sita's eyes. The gentle, fragrant breeze reminds me of Sita's honey scented breath. O Lakshmana, the pain of this cruel spring is unbearable, for I can no longer bear to live without Sita. You should return to Ayodhya and serve Bharata while I stay here and give up my life. Trying, trying to instill some hope in Rama, Lakshmana replied, My dear brother, there is no reason to suppose that Sita does not still live. Wherever Ravana may be, in heaven, on earth, within the ocean, or the nether regions, we shall find him and vent our wrath. Give up this useless melancholy and fix your mind on finding Sita. It is by earnest endeavor that we shall succeed, not by lamenting. Being thus admonished by Lakshmana, Rama gave up his depression. While conversing, they reached the vicinity of the Rasyamukha hill. From a distance, Sugriv could see Rama and Lakshmana approaching. Suspecting them to be allies of Vali, Sugriva became afraid. Then he and his associates quickly took shelter within the ashram of Matanga, which was protected by the rishis' magic spell. But in spite of such security, Sugriva was so restless and frightened that he kept wandering from one hilltop to another, unable to sit still for a moment. Hanuman then said to his distracted master, You should give up this paranoia of Vali. Being a fickle minded monkey, you hastily come to conclusions that surely will be rejected after more careful consideration. Sugriva replied, Whether they are agents of Vali or not, these persons are certainly frightening. Indeed, these two warriors look like chiefs of the demigods and are armed with bows and swords. Certainly, Vali is very cunning and has many friends. Therefore, I want you to find out why they have come here. Observe them carefully, noting their speech and their expressions. Find out who they are and what they want. If you purposefully glorify me in their presence, you shall be able to detect if they are friends or enemies. As he also had the suspicious mind of a monkey, Hanuman concealed his real form and appeared before Rama and Lakshmana as a mendicant. Then, after falling flat to offer his obeisances, Hanuman said, O great heroes, please tell me how it is that such exalted personalities as yourselves have come to this desolate region. Your strongly built bodies indicate that you are warriors, although you are dressed as ascetics. My name is Hanumana, minister of Sugriva, who has been banished from his kingdom by his elder brother Vali. I am the son of Vayu, and I can go anywhere at will and assume any form that I please. Sugriva has sent me here to extend his friendship and hospitality. Rama then told Lakshmana, This Hanuman is a minister of Sugriva, the noble king of the monkeys whom we have been searching for. He appears to be most courteous and speaks very poetically. In his eyes, limbs, attitude, and expression, there is nothing displeasing or duplicitous. He has depth, confidence, and power. Likewise, his speech reflects a mature unification of heart, voice, and intelligence. Even an enemy would be charmed by his words. O Lakshmana, please explain to Hanumana the events that have brought us here today. Lakshmana said, "It is our good fortune to meet you. We have been searching for Sugriva and are eager to make an alliance of friendship with him. This is Rama, the son of Maharaj Dashrath, and I am his younger brother Lakshman. Rama's father desired to install him as heir apparent to the royal throne, but due to political intrigue, Rama was banished to the forest instead. Recently, Rama's beloved wife Sita was kidnapped by the Rakshasa king Ravana. Overwhelmed by grief, we have been searching for Sita in the forest. While wandering here and there, we happened to come upon a fierce Rakshasa named Kabandha. By killing Kabandha, we relieved him of a terrible curse. In return, while ascending to heaven, he advised us to make an alliance with Sugriva. That is why we have now come. We are ready to do whatever is beneficial for you and your noble king." As Lakshmana described their plight to Hanuman, his voice and tear filled eyes reflected his inner anguish. Seeing this, Hanuman replied, "Like you, Sugriva is also bereft of his kingdom and wife. I am certain that he and his followers will help you in your campaign to find Sita. Please come along with me and meet Sugriva, for he has been very anxious to know the reason for your coming here." Saying this, Hanuman assumed his true form as a gigantic monkey. Then he took Rama and Lakshmana upon his shoulders and departed for the Rasyamukha mountain. Upon arriving there, Hanuman first went to Sugriva and informed him of Rama's friendly intentions. Satisfied, Sugriva took the form of a mendicant and went out to meet Rama and Lakshmana. As he approached, Sugriva extended his hand as an offering of friendship. With great pleasure, Rama extended his hand in return, and then feelingly embraced the monkey chief. Afterwards, to formally unite the two friends, Hanuman lit a sacred fire between Rama and Sugriva. After ceremoniously circumambulating the fire, Rama and Sugriva looked upon each other in a spirit of firm friendship. Sugriva then said, "My dear Rama, from this day on, your happiness shall be my happiness, your sorrow shall be my sorrow, and vice versa." Sugriva then placed a flower laden branch on the ground for Rama to sit upon, and Hanuman did the same for Lakshmana. After all were seated, Sugriva explained, "My dear Rama, I pass my life in constant anxiety because of my brother Vali. After Vali forcibly took my wife and kingdom, I took shelter within this forest. However, I am haunted by the fear that my elder brother may come here and attack me at any time. I do not know a moment's peace." Rama gently smiled and replied, "Service is the real fruit of friendship. Therefore, it is my duty to dispose of Vali and assist you in regaining your kingdom and wife." Sugriva then said, "Hanuman has told me about your exile and the kidnapping of your wife. As a friend, it is my vow to help you recover her, whether she is in heaven, on earth, or in the nether regions. O Rama, I am sure I saw Sita as she was being carried away by a powerful Rakshasa, crying out, 'Rama, Rama!' She saw me seated atop this hill with my associates, and threw down her upper garment and some jewels, which we later collected. Rama was eager to see these articles and asked Sugriva to retrieve them. Sugriva then went to the cave he stored them and brought them out for Rama to examine. Immediately recognizing the cloth and ornaments, Rama cried out, "O darling, O dearly beloved!" As tears fell from his lotus eyes, Rama began wailing pitifully and then lost consciousness. After coming to his senses, Rama said, "O Lakshmana, these articles were worn by Sita. Do you recognize them?" Lakshmana replied, "I have never looked at Sita above her ankles, so I cannot say whether the cloth is hers. I do, however, recognize the ankle bells because I used to bow to her lotus feet every morning." Rama then inquired about Ravana, and Sugriva replied, "Unfortunately, I have not heard of Ravana. However, you may rest assured that I will help you find him. O Rama, you should not lament excessively for the loss of your dear wife. A person can never become happy simply by grieving. Indeed, such sorrow actually diminishes one's strength and puts his life in danger. Although I am a foolish monkey and in a similar situation, I do not lament as much as you." Hearing Sugriva's words, Rama became a little pacified. He then embraced Sugriva again, and the two sat together comfortably. When Sugriva brought up the topic of his fear of Vali, Rama said, "O Sugriva, rest assured that I will kill Vali this very day. First, however, I would like to know how such enmity developed between you two brothers." Sugriva replied, "It is only unto a true friend that one can give full vent to his grief. As it happened, when my father died, Vali, being the elder prince, became the king of Kishkindeha, and I engaged in his service. Before this, Mayavi, the son of Maya Danava, had established an enmity with Vali because of a woman. Afterward, one night, as everyone lay sleeping, Mayavi came to Kishkindeha and challenged Vali to fight. Although his wives and I tried to restrain him, the enraged Vali rushed out of the palace to meet the aggressor. I followed my brother, and when the demon Mayavi saw us, he became frightened and ran away. When we gave chase, Mayavi entered a deep dark cave that was covered over by thick weeds. Vali ordered me to guard the entrance while he went into the cave to fight the demon. Thereafter, an entire year passed, and although I remained there guarding the entrance, I saw no sign of my brother. Suddenly, I observed blood mixed with foam oozing from the cave, and I could hear and could hear the noise of many demons, but not my brother's voice. I concluded that Vali must have been slain. I then blocked the entrance to the cave with a huge boulder and offered water for the benefit of my departed brother's soul. When I returned to Kishkindia, the ministers installed me upon the royal throne, and I began ruling the kingdom righteously. It came to pass that after some time, and much to the surprise of everyone, Vali returned to Kishkindia, having slain the demon. When my brother saw me seated upon the royal throne, he became enraged and immediately arrested the ministers, throwing them in chains. I could have fought with my brother, but out of respect I bowed down to him and placed the royal crown at his feet, hoping he would become pacified. Wali, however, remained angry and continued to severely abuse me. Then, calling together the leading citizens, he announced to all, "I entered the bowels of the earth to kill the demon Mayavi, and it was only after searching for him for one full year that I found him. After I killed the demon and all his relatives, the blood from their bodies flowed, practically filling up the cave and making it very difficult for me to get out. When I finally reached the mouth of the cave, I discovered it was blocked by a huge boulder. I called for Sugriva again and again but received no answer. Finally, I kicked out the boulder, freeing myself, and returned to Kishkinda. Much to my surprise, I saw Sugriva sitting upon the royal throne. I could then understand that his intention was to shut me up within the cave to gain control over the kingdom. Thereafter, Vali took away all my possessions, including my wife, and banished me from Kishkinda, leaving me with only a single cloth. Since that time, I have been residing upon this mountain along with my closest friends. Rama then said, "My dear Sugriva, rest assured, I will kill Vali so that you can recover your wife and kingdom." Even after hearing Rama's assurances, Sugriva remained doubtful whether Rama was powerful enough to slay Vali. To further illustrate his elder brother's prowess, he told the following story. Once there was a great demon named Dundhubi who wandered over the earth in the form of a buffalo. Upon reaching the seashore, Dhundubi challenged the ocean to fight. The ocean personified then appeared and said, "O best of the Asuras, I am not a competent match for you. I suggest that you approach Himavan, the presiding deity of the Himalayas and father in law of Lord Shiva." Thinking the ocean to be afraid of fighting with him, Dundubi went to the Himalayan mountains and began tearing down its peaks and cliffs. Himavan then appeared upon one mountain top and said, "I am the shelter of great rishis who are non-violent and equipoised. I am not at all adept at warfare. Therefore, O greatest of the demons, please leave us aside and do not create any further disturbance." The angry demon then asked who he could fight with instead, and Himavan described my brother Vali. Challenged the ocean. Yeah, Vali, the son of Indra. Thereafter, Dundubi went to Kishkinda, and while bellowing loudly, he began tearing up the ground with his hoofs, uprooting great trees, and damaging the city's gates with his horns. Vali immediately went out and challenged the arrogant demon to fight. After a brief exchange of harsh words, Vali grabbed Dundubi by the horns, whirled him around, and dashed him to the ground, causing blood to flow from the demon's ears. A fierce duel then ensued, as each struck the other forcefully. However, after a short time, the demon began to weaken. Seeing this, Vali lifted Dundubi into the air and smashed him on the ground with all his strength. As blood poured profusely from every hole of his body, the demon gave up his life. Then Vali lifted up Dundubi's dead body and hurled it 4 miles away. However, as the corpse flew through the air, drops of blood fell from its mouth and landed on the ground at Matanga Rishi's ashrama. This angered the great rishi who wondered who could have done such a thoughtless and stupid act. When Matanga came to know that the demon had been killed by Vali, he pronounced the following curse: "If that monkey ever comes within 4 miles of my ashram, he will instantly die. If any of his ministers come here, they will remain as statues for thousands of years." Although Vali tried to pacify the rishi, he was unable to and has been afraid to approach this place ever since. Over there, you can see the bones of the great demon. You can just imagine how powerful Dundubi must have been. How then can you hope to defeat Vali? Lakshmana then laughed, realizing that Sugriva doubted Rama's ability to kill Vali. He asked, "What feat could Rama do that would prove his prowess and set your mind at ease?" Sugriva replied, "Once at this place, Vali pierced 7 large trees with 7 arrows. If Rama could split one of these trees with a single arrow, and then kick the remains of Dundubi at a distance of 200 bows lengths, I would consider him a suitable match for Vali. Hearing this, Rama effortlessly lifted the skeleton of Dundubi with his big toe and sportingly flung it a distance of 80 miles. Even so, Sugriva said, when Vali threw Dundubi's body, it was heavy with flesh and blood. Moreover, he was greatly fatigued from fighting. Since the carcass is now much lighter, it is impossible to judge who is more powerful, you or Vali. At that, Rama took up his bow and released a powerful arrow that pierced all the seven trees, entered the earth, went down to the bottom of the universe, and after 1 hour returned to his quiver. Sugriva was struck with wonder and reverently bowed at Rama's lotus feet. Rama then embraced Sugriva and suggested, let us now go to Kishkindeha. You should go ahead and challenge Vali, while Lakshmana and I hide behind some trees just outside the city gates. When Sugriva arrived at Kishkindeha, he let out a loud roar challenging his brother. As Vali heard it, he immediately rushed out, excited with rage, just like the sun emerging from behind a hill. In great anger, Vali and Sugriva struck each other with their fists. However, as Rama watched the fight, he could not discern which of the two was Vali, for the two brothers looked exactly alike. Thus, Rama refrained from discharging his arrows, causing Sugriva to think that he was unwilling to help him. Indeed, Sugriva was getting the worst of the fight and finally ran away, barely alive, battered and soaked in his own blood. As Vali chased Sugriva, he taunted, coward, run for your life. This time I shall spare you. Okay, so I would request um, Aditya Prabhu to kindly take over the session. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Am I audible?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Uh, Prabhuji, actually, I was just missing the paragraph, Prabhu.
Okay.
I shall read from when Subra arrived at Kiskinda, that one only, no?
We have to read from next to that paragraph.
Sugriva then took shelter in the forest.
Yes.
Okay, Prabhu. Sugriva then took shelter in the forest by Matanga's ashrama, and soon thereafter Rama, Lakshmana, and Hanuman arrived. Sugriva reproached Rama, if you did not intend to kill Vali, why did you encourage me to challenge him? It would have been better for you to say, I am not willing to kill your elder brother. Rama then explained that he could not distinguish who was who in the fight, since they appeared identical. It was for this reason, Rama said, that I hesitated to discharge my arrow. He told Sugriva to mark himself with something that would distinguish him from his brother. Thereafter, Sugriva again set out for Kishkindya, accompanied by Rama, Lakshmana, and Hanuman. When they reached the outskirts of the city, Sugriva strode forward, challenging his brother with loud roars, while the others concealed themselves behind trees and bushes. Vali was inside the lady's apartments when he heard Sugriva summon him. In a fit of rage, he rose up from his seat. storming out of the room in heavy strides. In great anxiety, Wali's wife Tara clung to her husband, imploring him, "My dear lord, please cast aside your anger and consider the matter carefully. You have already beaten Sugriva severely. Thus, it is quite suspicious that he should return so soon, roaring with confidence. I must conclude that to dare act so boldly, Sugriva must now be accompanied by a strong ally. Our son Angada has received information from his spies that Rama and Lakshmana have come here and made an alliance of friendship with Sugriva. Since Rama is inconceivably powerful, comparable to Lord Vishnu himself, you should not risk creating enmity with him. Please settle this by making Sugriva the apparent and thus establish friendship with Rama. Being destined to die, Vali could not accept sound advice. Thus he replied, I cannot tolerate such arrogance from my younger brother. As for Rama, I have no quarrel with him. He is a virtuous Kshatriya, and I have no fear that he would harm a person that bears no enmity. Saying this, Vali stormed out of the city, hissing with rage. He confronted Sugriva, and a fierce struggle ensued. As before, Vali eventually began to gain the upper hand. Then Sugriva signaled Rama, indicating that his strength was waning. Seeing that Sugriva was near the point of collapse, Rama fitted a powerful arrow onto his bowstring. He released the arrow, and it flashed to the air like lightning, piercing Vali deeply in the chest. However, even though bathed in his own blood and lying on the ground, Vali did not immediately give up his life, for he was wearing a gold chain given to him by his father, King Indra. Coming from their hiding place, Rama and Lakshmana approached the fallen Vali, who began chastising Rama, saying, I heard you were a righteous hero and king, devoted to Dharma and compassionate. Little did I realize you are a vile wretch, like a well covered with weeds. You make an external show of virtue, but your sinful action has betrayed your sinful heart. I fought with Sugriva because I was convinced that you would not attack me. How could anyone claiming to be a Kshatriya and a hero kill someone engaged in fighting with another and with whom he has no enmity? I never harmed or insulted you. I never attacked your kingdom. What merit have you acquired by striking me unfairly? How will you ever justify this action in front of righteous men? If you would have fought honestly, then it would be you lying here, not I. You shot your arrow at me from behind like a snake attacking a sleeping man. I challenge you to justify this shameful act. Rama applied. Your accusations show that you are actually ignorant of true morality. Monkeys are by nature frivolous because of their uncontrolled minds. Because you are a monkey and your advisors also monkeys, you cannot understand Dharma. The entire earth with its mountains, forests, and rivers is ruled over by the dynasty of Ikshvaku. The kings of the Ikshvaku dynasty have complete authority over all men and animals and have the power to punish or reward whoever they please. It is you who have acted sinfully under the sway of lust and greed. You have taken Ruma, the wife of your younger brother, and enjoyed her as your wife. It is for this sinful act that you deserve to die at my hands. Death is the proper punishment for one who has sexual relations with his daughter, daughter in law, sister, or the wife of a younger brother. If a king does not punish a sinner, then he himself becomes sinful. It is for this reason that I promised to kill you and thus enable Sugriva to regain his wife and kingdom. Aside from this, it is accepted practice that while hunting, Kshatriyas release their arrows at inattentive animals from a hidden position. Therefore, since you are only a monkey, my act does not bear the slightest fault. Being enlightened by these words, Vali felt shame for his abominable actions. With folded hands, he replied, whatever you have said is certainly true. I only dared to denounce you because I was overly proud, ignorant of my own sins. My dear Rama, I implore you to give protection to my only son Angada, begot by me through my wife Tara. He will certainly become grief stricken upon hearing of my death. Please excuse my harsh words spoken by ignorance. Rama assured Vali that he would take care of Angada. Meanwhile, Tara came running from the palace with her son. She was surrounded by Vali's ministers, but when the monkeys saw Rama, they began to flee in fear. Tara tried to restrain them, but they urged, do not go out to see Vali. Protect your son within the fortifications of Kishkindia and prepare to install him on the throne. Tara answered, I do not care for sovereignty. The kingdom and its royal opulence are now useless without my husband. Crying and beating her breast in lamentation, Tara went to where Vali lay upon the ground in the grip of approaching death. Tara embraced her dying husband, and Vali's other wives surrounded them, plunged in grief. Tara's only desire was to follow her husband, and she made up her mind to fast until death. At this, Hanuman went to her and pleaded, O Queen, please get up. Do not succumb to grief. You must perform the funeral ceremonies for your husband and protect Angada after installing him upon the throne. Vali then said, my dear Sugriva, I beg you to forgive me for all the wrong I have done toward you. Accept the kingdom from me now and take care of my son Angada, for he shall always remain faithful to you. Saying this, Vali handed Sugriva the celestial gold chain he had received from Indra. Then, turning to Angada, he said, my dear son, now that I am departing, you should always remain obedient to Sugriva, always act after due consideration, and accept the dualities of pleasure and pain with an equipoised mind. Avoid excessive attachment and hatred, for both lead to degradation. Thus, after speaking to Angada, Vali, who was deeply wounded by Rama's arrow, gave up his life. Then, as Tara continued to embrace her dead husband, wailing in grief, Neela came and extracted the arrow from Vali's chest. Tara then told Angada, bow down to your father's feet. As the young prince did this, he too became overwhelmed with grief. Upon seeing Tara's anguish, Sugriva became despondent and with a sorrowful voice said to Rama, I have found that the fulfillment of my desire has produced the opposite of what I anticipated. Instead of happiness, I feel repulsion toward the kingdom and even life itself. To atone for my sin, I will give up my life in the fire. My dear Rama, these other heroic monkeys will help you search for your beloved wife Sita. Rama became dejected hearing Sugriva speak this way. As tears came to Rama's eyes, Tara approached him, saying, I know that my husband will be very unhappy without me, even if he now resides in heaven. Therefore, please kill me also, so I may rejoin him. If you consider killing a woman to be sinful, then just think of me as non different from Vali. Rama turned to Sugriva, saying, your tears of sorrow are sufficient bereavement for the departed soul of your brother. This world is moving under the direction of eternal time, and all living entities make their appearance and departure. Under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, time never oversteps its limit. Thus, one should not lament for that which is inevitable. In this way, Sugriva became pacified. With Lakshmana's help, he began to arrange for the cremation of his brother's body. Soon thereafter, a palanquin was brought from Kishkindya. Sugriva placed Vali's body on it and led the funeral procession to the banks of a nearby mountain stream. As the funeral pyre was being built, Tara placed Vali's head upon her lap while continuing to weep bitterly, giving pain to all who saw her. Finally, the other women came and raised Tara up, allowing Sugriva and Angada to place the body of Vali on the funeral pyre. After the cremation, the relatives brought water from the river Tungabhadra and made offerings for the departed soul of the heroic Monkey King. When the funeral ceremonies were completed, Hanuman requested Rama to accompany Sugriva to Kishkindya to install him on the royal throne. Rama declined, however, saying, Hanuman, I suggest that you officiate at Sugriva's coronation and have Angada installed as heir apparent. Since the monsoon season is nearly upon us, it is not a suitable time to search for Sita. All the monkey chiefs may stay in Kishkindya for 4 months while Lakshmana and I pass our time residing in a mountain cave. When autumn arrives, we can begin an all-out search for the kingdom of Ravana. Sugriva then entered Kishkindya and was welcomed by the citizens. The bathing ceremony at his coronation was performed by the foremost of monkeys, including Mainda, Dvivida, and Hanuman, as well as Jambavan, the king of the bears. Sugriva accepted his wife Ruma back and installed Angada as heir apparent to the royal throne. For 4 months, Rama and Lakshmana dwelt within a mountain cave. Feeling intense separation from Sita, Rama could not find any pleasure in the scenic beauty of the mountainous regions. He was unable to sleep at night and constantly shed tears of anguish. One day, Rama said to Lakshmana, after evaporating water from the ocean for 9 months, the sky now sends forth heavy showers of rain. Dark clouds, as large as hills, range across the sky in clusters, creating a mood of melancholy The golden lightning, as it streaks inside a blackish monsoon cloud, appears like Sita in the arms of Ravana. The lush green grass, spotted with various flowers and restless birds, provides a colorful dress for Mother Earth. Bees are humming, frogs are croaking, and the rumble of thunder and patter of the rain provide musical accompaniment. Surely Sugriva is able to enjoy all this, for his objective has been fulfilled. But without Sita, I am like the river bank that erodes from the river's constant current. Lakshmana would try to encourage Rama, pointing out that the purpose of a grieving man was never fulfilled. Regardless, the dark skies and frequent rains that nourished the tropical jungle only intensified Rama's longing for Sita. Rama assumed that when he had helped Sugriva to regain his kingdom, Sugriva would remember his obligation to assist him find Sita. But when autumn arrived and the skies became clear, Sugriva did not come forward to meet Rama. Having achieved his goal and now without cause for fear, Sugriva had begun to spend his time completely absorbed in enjoying the company of young women in private, especially his wife Ruma and the newly acquired Tara. Thus, he even neglected to fulfill his obligation of managing the state administration. When Hanuman saw how Sugriva had become a slave to sensuality and and thereby becoming negligent in his duties, he approached the king and advised, "You must keep your promise and fulfill your obligation to Rama. Only out of respect for you has Rama not personally come here to remind you. However, you must remember that it is only by his grace that you have been allowed to prosper. It is now time for you to summon the more than 10 million monkeys under your command and begin an all out search for Sita."
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So thank you, Prabhu, for reading. And
Thank you.
I would request now Shiv Kumar Prabhuji, if he can take over the reading. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Pranam.
Tanod Pranams Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, can you take it now from
Yeah,
Hanuman's speech?
yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, please.
Hanuman's speech momentarily brought Sugriva back to his senses. Sugriva then called Nila and ordered, "Let my proclamation be broadcast to all the monkey warriors. All must proceed here for duty within 15 days or else face the death sentence." Giving this command, Sugriva returned to his inner apartments. The beauty of autumn only heightened Rama's anguish in separation from Sita. When he could understand that Sugriva was simply wallowing in a life of sensuality, Rama became yet more depressed. Lakshmana also became despondent on witnessing Rama's grief and tried his best to cheer him. One day Rama decided, now that autumn has arrived, the ground is dry and firm, the air crisp and cool. This is the perfect time to initiate a military campaign. Unfortunately, Sugriva is not to be seen. It appears that he has forgotten all sense of duty, being fully absorbed in the pleasure of the association of women. Therefore, Lakshmana, I want you to go to Kishkindhya and admonish Sugriva in my name, saying, O king of the monkeys, one who acts like you is the most vile of persons. I am astonished that you are not afraid of neglecting Rama, the slayer of your elder brother. I hereby warn you that if you neglect your promise to help Rama find Sita, then he will personally come to Kishkindha and kill you, along with all your relatives. When Rama exhibited his anger, born of intense transcendental frustration, Lakshmana also became incited with rage. Picking up his bow, Lakshmana declared, "If that rascal Sugriva does not jump to execute your command, then I shall kill him myself this very day." As Lakshmana quickly departed, Rama tried to restrain his brother's anger. "First, speak to Sugriva in a conciliatory tone, for I am sure that will be enough to bring him to the senses," Rama said. In a mood of great indignation, Lakshmana entered Kishkindha, a beautiful city built within a large cave. As he rushed like a mad elephant towards Sugriva's palace, Lakshmana knocked down the trees that stood in his path. When the many fierce monkeys guarding the palace entrance saw Lakshmana approach, his lips trembling in rage, they began gathering weapons by uprooting large trees and tearing down mountain peaks. When Lakshmana saw the monkey guards arming themselves in this way, he became so ferocious that the monkey guards became panic stricken and fearfully ran away. Sugriva's ministers rushed to Sugriva to inform him of Lakshmana's arrival in such an angry mood. Sugriva, however, was fully absorbed in sexual activities with Tara and did not pay much heed to his ministers. As the ministers ordered the monkeys to arm themselves in preparation for battle, the enraged Lakshmana met Angada and told him to inform Sugriva of his arrival. At that, Angada went into Sugriva's chamber and, clasping his uncle's feet, informed him of Lakshmana's presence. However, Sugriva had fallen asleep in a drunken state and failed to rise. Only when numerous monkeys began to clamor loudly around Sugriva did he finally arise. Out of fear of Lakshmana, Sugriva came to his senses. As Sugriva opened his bloodshot eyes, his ministers informed him, "Lakshmana is now waiting for you outside the palace gates in a highly agitated state. We urge you to go out immediately, offer your obeisances, and submit to him. Pray this will appease his anger." Having finally realized the gravity of the situation, Sugriva hastily arose from his bed, wondering why Lakshmana would be angry with him. Hanuman then reminded Sugriva, "O king, due to becoming absorbed in sense gratification, you have not even noticed how the time has passed. Autumn has long since arrived, yet you have neglected to fulfill your promise to help Rama in his search for Sita. Lakshmana has now come here to remind you. I suggest you approach him with folded hands and hope that you may somehow appease him." On Sugriva's order, Angada escorted Lakshmana into the palace. All the monkeys who previously had taken up weapons now stood with folded hands to greet Lakshmana. When Lakshmana came to the inner apartments of Sugriva's palace, he could hear the voices of women singing to the accompaniment of musical instruments mixed with the jingling sound of their ornaments. Indeed, upon seeing all the young, beautiful women, Lakshmana became somewhat ashamed due to his vow to shun the company of others' wives. Although he restrained himself from entering, Lakshmana announced his arrival by twanging his mighty bow. Sugriva trembled upon hearing that sound and told Tara, "I wonder why Lakshmana is angry. I think it would be better for you to go out first and try to appease him." Tara came before Lakshmana, her dress loosened and her eyes rolled from intoxication. Lakshmana's anger subsided and he humbly looked downward toward her feet out of respect. Tara then inquired, "My dear prince, why are you so angry with Sugriva?" Lakshmana sharply replied, "Your husband has neglected his obligation to Rama preferring instead to pass his days in his inner apartments dallying with women. Tara then pleaded to Lakshmana, "You must forgive Sugriva, for he has lost his good intelligence under the sway of lust. Even great rishis sometimes hanker for sense gratification, what to speak of a fickle-minded monkey? Please do not think that Sugriva has forgotten his obligation to Rama. He has already called for millions of monkeys to assemble here to begin the search for Sita. Please come in and talk to Sugriva yourself." Lakshmana entered the inner apartments of the palace. When he saw the fabulous opulence and beeves of beautiful women, his anger again became aroused. Sugriva was seated upon a couch embracing Ruma. However, upon seeing Lakshmana enter, he hurriedly stood up with folded hands, as did all the ladies present. Lakshmana then chastised Sugriva. "You have simply made empty promises, proving yourself to be a false friend. Therefore, you are most abominable. One who receives help from a sincere friend and does not repay that service is considered hard-hearted and must be killed." Indeed, once when Lord Brahma saw such an ungrateful person, he exclaimed, "The means of atonement has been prescribed for the killer of a cow, a drunkard, a thief, or for one who has broken a sacred vow, but there is no expiation for an ungrateful soul. I warn you, Sugriva, if you do not begin helping Rama immediately, you will meet your brother Vali in the abode of Yamaraja this very day." Tara then replied for her husband, "O Lakshmana, Sugriva is not a liar, nor is he hard-hearted. He has not forgot what Rama did for his sake. His only fault is losing all sense of time because of overindulgence in sense gratification. We have heard that in Lanka, the abode of Ravana, there are 100,000 crores of Rakshasas. Since it would not be possible to kill Ravana without slaying them first, Sugriva has summoned innumerable monkey warriors from all corners of the earth. He has not yet met with Rama or initiated the search for Sita because he is awaiting their arrival. Sugriva has set a 15-day time limit. Thus, thousands of monkeys, bears, and baboons are expected to begin arriving at Kishkindha this very day.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Thank you so much for reading it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Um, so I would request if devotees, if they have any questions, then they are free. You can feel free to ask, or you can put it on the questions tab there. As per as much as I know, I may try to answer those questions. Hearing this. Okay. Mm, access. I'll give access.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Am I audible?
Oh,
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Hare. Yeah, yes. Yes, Malji, you are audible.
Prabhuji, I have a question. How did Lord Rama not identify Vali in the first case? When he knows everything,
Okay,
he should have identified that, I feel.
okay. Um, why did Lord Rama not identify Vali since the Lord is omniscient? Yeah, the Lord is omniscient, but since he is enacting his pastimes, he's doing the Naralila of enacting the pastimes just like a human being. So he it is his so he acts in such a way like in which being his omniscience is not displayed. So for the rasas, for the mellows, for his devotees, there are various mellows which the Lord experiences. We have five rasas, um, and yeah, there are five rasas of like servitor. Of there are five rasas exchanges of devotees with the Lord. That is the exchange of devotees, and the Lord also experiences like the mellow of lamentation and sorrow and grief and happiness. So these are different rasas which the Lord enacts in his pastimes. So thereby, he knows, Rama knows everything, but since because of Leela, he wants to teach us from he wants to teach us lesson from it, how what we should learn from his pastimes. Like from the pastime of Vali, we learn that when Lord Ram killed Vali, and then he approached Vali, he himself came to Vali. So the devotees, people, they go to Lord for meeting him, but the Lord himself he came to Vali and put him on his lap. Just see how Lord, is so merciful and so kind, and showing him like giving him shelter. So yeah, like that. So every pastime of the Lord has something for the living, have something for us living entities, conditioned souls, to learn it. And just like Lord Krishna, when he's like a small child, he is all powerful, but still he's running from Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda is carrying a stick and he's chasing after Lord Krishna, but Lord Krishna is running and being fear, and he is very much scared of his mother being beaten by her. So we can say that one can ask that why Lord Krishna knows everything, he's all powerful, but why he is being take why he is running from fear of my mother Yashoda. Even the fear personified himself is fearful of Lord Krishna. So what is the answer for that? Answer is like the Lord is carrying out, he's enjoying the rasa of fear. He's the exchange with his devotees. He's in his lila. So that's how we understand why the all omniscient Lord, all powerful Lord, he does not exhibit his omniscience or power or prowess. That's how we can understand, Mataji. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. There is another question. Is it okay for Sugriva to take Tara as his wife? Um, yeah, as per Dharma, as far as I know that uh, if the brothers, if the brother is died, what is that shloka there? In Kali Yuga, I think it is not allowed. I'll have to check this with the Prabhuji, like where it in the Shastra this mention is there. Um, I'll answer this question, Prabhu, later. I'll check with the Prabhuji and then I'll let you know.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Okay, so we will wrap up the session here, and tomorrow we will continue the session reading. And Hare Krishna. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभयेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे